Welcome to Black Fashion History, the podcast that celebrates the contributions of Black people to the fashion industry. It's Black history, but make it fashion. And I'm your host, Taniqua Martin. Welcome back to another episode of the Black Fashion History. And today we're here with a very special guest. I'm so excited to speak to this guest. I first came across her work while doing some research with Black Design Collective, and I just loved reading about her career. And so I want her to come on here and share a little bit about that because she is Black fashion history. Not only does she teach Black fashion history, but she is Black fashion history in the making. So love to welcome to the show, Dr. Trawick Ferguson.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, good to hear. Well, thank you again for joining, and we're just gonna hop right in. You have such an amazing and extensive career, and we're gonna go through all of that today. But I first want to start from the beginning, which is the best place to start. And I want to learn how did you first become involved or even interested in fashion?
All right, so that's a great story. My mom used to sew. She worked for a Singer Sewing Company, and my dad, he knew how to sew as well, military veteran, but he used to sew at home, and my mom did. So at the age of 5, my mom actually taught me how to hand sew. And so I started making doll clothes. And then at 7, she put me on a sewing machine. So she taught me how to sew by hand first, and then she allowed me to use the sewing machine at the age of 7. And I started making doll clothes. Then as I got older, I started making clothes for myself. Then my friends started seeing what I was doing, so they wanted me to start sewing them things and making things for them. And then it just kind of took off from there. I started designing prom dresses, and I did a little everything, from children's to men's, sportswear, swimwear. I was just making all kinds of stuff. My dad, and I don't know how far to go. I'll just talk. So I started designing, and I started my own business, because I knew that's what I wanted to do. But I did go to school for fashion, merchandising, and design. And then right after that, I got an MBA. And then after that, I went back to get a second master's in secondary education because I had started teaching. So my dad said, "Why don't you be a teacher?" And so I said, "No, I'm a fashion designer. I don't want to teach." But I ended up substitute teaching, fell in love with that. And so I was teaching at a local high school. The girls there found out that I knew how to sew because I wasn't actually in the fashion program there, but they learned that I knew how to sew. And so I started making prom dresses that way. So I ended up leaving that high school, going to another high school where I did teach fashion there, fashion design and other courses. And so I taught there for 10 years. Found out about the PhD program at Mizzou University. Went there because I was actually tell this story because it's kind of funny. When I was in middle school, we had to write a paper about what we wanted to do in life. And so I had 3 options. The first was get married and be a housewife with 7 kids. And the second one was to open up my own boutique and have to be a fashion designer, have international boutiques all over the world. And then the last thing was to get my PhD and be a university professor. So I had ABC. So I always say, yeah, I ended up being a C student because I ended up with, being a professor. Yeah, so I was working on my PhD, and after I got that little bug of teaching at the college level, I'm like, oh, wow, this is amazing. So I started pursuing that. And then later, I ended up coming here to Lindenwood University in 2012. And so within 1 year, I was in charge of the program.
Okay, I want to pause you for a second. Okay.
Okay.
Because we're going to get into that later. But before we get into your career at Lindenwood, I do want to go back to something that you said. You talked about your 3 choices or the 3 things that you wrote down as far as your career aspirations. One being a wife and mom, the other a designer and boutique owner, and then the third being oh man, why did I just draw a blank? I just had it. The third being a professor. What made you as someone who grew up like loving fashion, sewing, what made you take that kind of pivot from designer to teacher?
Yeah, so I was actually designing. I had my own business, and my dad, he kind of encouraged me to start teaching. I was making really nice money designing, but at the age of 25, I got kicked off my parents' insurance. And so he said, "Okay, you need to get a real job with
I
insurance
know
and
that
benefits."
struggle.
And so I said, "Yeah." So I said, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Why not be a teacher?" And my sister, she was a teacher. She's retired now. And so that's something that I didn't want to do, but I'm just like, okay, he said, just try it, just start subbing. So I started substitute teaching and I actually fell in love with it. It was really rewarding to teach, students. I started at pre-K, went all the way up to high school. And so I really enjoyed teaching the students and I was still designing on the side. So it was a really nice marriage there with the it wasn't a full commitment of a full-time teacher, so I still was able to design on the side and still teach. And so after that I ended up teaching full time, and so everything just started opening up from there.
I love that because I think a lot of people, when they think about working in fashion, they always want to be like design, 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 or maybe a stylist, but typically on the creative side. And I always say that we love the creative side and it's absolutely necessary. I mean, it is the industry, but there are so many other ways as someone who loves fashion and is interested in it. Even if you start off as a designer, there are so many other avenues that you can go that's needed in the industry. So hearing that you design and transition into education while still designing, I think it's a great tidbit for the audience to just kind of get out there and explore what else is possible and then combine that with your fashion love and expertise. And, you might be surprised at like what fulfilling career you could create. So
Yeah.
I know you mentioned your time at Lindenwood for a little bit. Speaking about like a fulfilling career, you became the first woman and first person of color to hold an endowed chair at Lindenwood. That's a historic moment. So, one, I would love for you to explain what that means for people who are unfamiliar with the education space, and then what that moment meant for you as an educator. Is that something that you was pursuing, or was it just a result of all of the other great things that you had been doing in your career?
Okay, so just to go back a little bit, as of now, without further research, I was also the first African American person or woman in the PhD program at Mizzou as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that was a bit challenging, but I did go back and ask them, like, okay, has there been anyone else? And they were just like, no, all we have is you. And so one of the people that actually welcomed me or helped me into the program, she had said that as well. That kind of, to have that, oh, wow, they're still first, we're still being first in different arenas. And that was in 2007 when I first attended
Very
Mizzou for
recent.
my PhD. Right, very recent. So when I got here, um, and I want to keep this just as positive as possible. So it was the endowment actually fell into my lap, and it actually came from a really, I guess, shocking situation where the fashion design program that I had recreated, built, very successful. I launched a second degree in fashion business and entrepreneurship because that was my background, designing, but as well as the business side. And I know that was one of the things that I really needed when I was working for myself, is that business aspect. So I saw that the students would also need that. And so I developed the fashion business and entrepreneurship degree as well. Once that degree was launched and it was successful, it was decided that we didn't need the fashion design program anymore. And so that was kind of shocking. And it was a general conversation with someone. The next thing I know, I got a call, and that call and that person said, "What do you need? How can we help? What can we do?" And so I told him my program had been shut down and I really just wanted to build it back up because you can have fashion business, but you really need fashion design because what are you promoting? So you need
Exactly.
fashion design and fashion business. They go hand in hand. And so I was given the amount, went through the contract, met with with our donor, the president of our university at that time, and my dean. And so we went through that whole process to get the endowment in place. And again, found out through our archivist here. And one other thing, and I always have trouble adding that, but again, as to date, I have the endowment ever in the history of Lindenwood as well. And so all of those are like really nice little tidbits, but as far as, how did it feel? It was really, I was inspired. I was, extremely happy, extremely thankful because of the way that it happened and just grateful. I mean, it was just a lot. And still thinking about it, thinking about my donor, it still is kind of like unbelievable. But as far as the welcoming of it here and, there was nothing. It was just like, okay, next. And it was just like, and that's how it's been. And that's pretty much how it is today.
Well, it's definitely not nothing to me. And it's not nothing to my audience, I'm sure, because you said something that I think is very important, which is you noticed the need, something that you needed when you were coming up, and something that your students needed, and you created that. And I think that is amazing. And we need more of that in this industry, in all industries, for us, seeing people that had the experiences and then building for the next generation to make it a little bit easier so that we're more educated for the next step. So I love that. And that's a historic moment. And it just kind of again shows how throughout your career you continue to push and create spaces for people that look like you, people that don't look like you in the industry so that they can succeed. Speaking of, I came to learn about you based on your work with the Black Design Collective. So can you share how you got involved in that organization and how that kind of fits in line with your mission as an educator and all the additional work that you do?
All right. So you might have to cut me off or stop me again because this is really exciting. So, okay, let's try to make this short and sweet. So I met TJ Walker, who's the co-founder of Cross Colors, and we actually brought him here to Lindenwood University for a workshop for our students. And so we connected from that event and we just kind of had a natural connection. So we stayed in touch. And then he contacted me about the Black Design Collective and that they were looking at adding an educational side of that for like a school or something similar, some type of educational opportunities. And so he asked if I wanted to be a part of that. And so I became a member. I think it was called the education department, or it was one of those sides of education. And so I was on that committee. And so we would meet once a week and develop curriculum for the different courses. And so that has actually taken off really nicely. That was probably around COVID when that happened because everything was still online. I was at home working. And so that was just a wonderful experience being able to work with someone that, was an icon for me. And I tell them I didn't see Black designers. I didn't see African American designers growing up, but I saw Cross Colors. And when I saw them, it was just like, oh my God, I can be a designer. And so actually being able to meet him was just phenomenal. And then for him to be nice, you can meet people, and then they're kind of like,
That is
oh, that's
true.
not what I expected. Yeah, but he was just, oh my gosh, so amazing, so welcoming. And I mean, he wouldn't consider himself my mentor, but he definitely is because we would talk through things and just an amazing, amazing person. So that's pretty much how it started with me on the Black Design Collective.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I Cross Colors was certainly before my time, but it's a brand that I remember consistently seeing throughout my life on every sitcom, every Black sitcom, every magazine. Even now watching things back, you always see like that very distinct Cross Colors style of clothing. So I can only imagine what that was like to kind of have those conversations and work together in that way. And Black Design Collective is full of so many amazing, iconic, and historic designers. So I know I would be overjoyed to have that opportunity as well. I can definitely relate there. So throughout your career, you have worn many hats, done many things. You said you're a designer, you educate, of course, you produce fashion shows, you've curated exhibits. Which of these projects or these roles stand out to you as like a milestone moment?
Milestone moment. I
And
think
it's
it
okay
would
if you have
be,
multiple.
yeah. So I think the educational side, and because I was so reluctant to do it, with my dad saying, yeah, be a teacher, and me like, no thanks, I'm a fashion designer. And how when I actually listened to him, the doors just open. It's like the floodgates of heaven poured on me, just like I just started getting blessed and blessed and blessed. Just, not even, I can't even say what I did for things to just fall in my lap and doors to just open, because as a designer, I was like beating and scratching and kicking doors, and it was just like, nope, no thanks, nope, can't come in here. But when I switched focus to teaching and education, that's when I saw a lot of things open up that I would have never thought I would have that opportunity. Even though in middle school I wanted to have international boutiques, that was a dream. With education, I've been able to travel to different places around the world. And again, like you said, take students there and introduce them to different cultures and different fashion cities and all of that. Both students who look like us, who may not have had that opportunity, and other students as well. So I think education and being a professor really was the icing on the cake, I would say. The others are like things that I enjoy doing, like the fashion shows. Those, my first fashion show was in second grade, so I can do those in my sleep. They take very little effort. It's just like, oh, you need a fashion show? Okay, bam, bam, bam. What I've noticed is the same thing with writing fashion curriculum, which we have a high school that needed a fashion program. And so I was able to create that curriculum for them, get the students to teach in that program. One of our students graduated. She's teaching there now. And she actually joined us on a trip last May to Paris, where we actually went to the Josephine Baker Castle. We're here in St. Louis. Lindenwood is in St. Charles, but we're in St. Louis. And so we were able to visit the Josephine Baker Castle. So taking her through all of those steps just from education was really inspiring, and really it meant a lot. And so just seeing, and I tell her, I said, oh my God, you're the new me. And she's just like, oh, I wish. I'm just like, but I could see her following in my path with a mentor to guide her, where I didn't have that mentor to guide me through the whole fashion education process. And so it's rewarding to be able to help her along the way and see the great things that she's doing.
Why do you think it's so important to be a mentor to students or to provide them with some of the things that you noticed were not available as you were growing and developing in your career?
Well, I think one, being an African American woman, we might, I won't say might, I'm trying to be nice, really, I am. But there are like different strikes that we have. And so there are opportunities that we are not afforded. And so whenever I can help, then I think it's very important and very crucial, critical that you do reach back to the next generation, or you pour into the next group of people that need your help. And so that's just what I see, and what I do naturally is I'm a helper, a giver, server. Those are things that bring me joy, helping others. And so I think it is very important to have mentors. Just being in the area that I am now and at the level that I am, there's so much that I don't know. There's so much help I still need. And so I've
Right.
just adopted my own mentors. Like, yeah, you're my mentor. You may not know it. It's like, yeah, you're going to be my mentor. And so just still needing help because those opportunities weren't provided growing up, or didn't know anything about it, had no clue certain things existed. It's like when you do make it to a certain place or a certain level, even one step up, you can reach back and pull up the next person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I, as I'm a proponent for education being one of the ways in which people do that, because I think that is where, most people start. Like they go to school and that's where they kind of see their first glimpses of what they can be when they grow up, or how far something that they're interested can go. So again, I love that you're in a position where you are in front of so many students and have that opportunity to reach back in that way. So as you are like mentoring people and developing curriculum and doing all of the things that you do to pour into your students and other people in this space, what things have you noticed is important for the next generation of designers or fashion professionals in general to know about the industry as they're coming up, for people who don't have the pleasure of being in one of your classes or being in close proximity with you?
Yeah, so as far as the industry, before it used to be production, but now AI has come in, and so production is not as difficult as it once was. Because I know for the Midwest and where we are, having manufacturing companies to actually create the designs that the students would make was really difficult and challenging, that we would see on a regular basis. They would have these, beautiful ideas and designs and sketches and tech packs and all that stuff, but didn't have the resources to actually get them produced or made or to scale that idea or the business either. So that was one of the things that I would always see, and still at some level still see that. Although AI, you type in something and it tells you this, it tells you that. I had a student to actually use AI to produce a dress. And so everything is now more technology and automated. And so I would just say keep learning, get a mentor, and keep reading. So you will learn where the industry is going, because it's moving at top speed now. When I was in the industry, it was a lot, much, much slower. But now it's so much faster because we have so many ways of communicating and so much technology and high speed everything.
Do you think that's beneficial, more beneficial, or more detrimental to designers? Just curious your
So
thoughts on that.
yeah, so that's interesting because I've had students to write about both, graduate students. And so I look at it as use it to the best of your ability and to your comfort level. If you're kind of like, no, I want to create this, because that's one thing that they can't take away is the human touch and the human creativity. They have it programmed, and so they'll spit out something. But if someone is saying, no, I want to keep doing it by hand, I want to have that craftsmanship, then I say go for it, because still you can use AI to promote it, or, to make it bigger or better or faster or whatever. But then we have students who love the technology and the AI of it, like, okay, I can just type this in and it spits it out. Okay, great. I can type this in and because there was one student in particular that did not have a fashion background at all, but she wanted to create a clothing brand. And so she was just like, yeah, I was just going to use technology. And it was just kind of like, okay, but I wasn't offended by it. Some were like, what? You don't have a fashion background, and it's so hard to be a fashion designer. It's long hours. You're up all night. You're designing, you're sewing, you're doing all of this work, and you just come up and want to just type in stuff. Voila, you've got design.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so I really just think it depends on the person, and that they can equally grow. I'm not the AI person because I'm just like, but I think I'm just old fashioned in that way. But I do understand that's where our industry is. That's where the world is right now. And so I'm just moseying along. I give my students what they need. And it's like, okay, you take this, you use that, use it to your best ability. But I do think that they can work together for the most part right now.
Yeah, I know. I'm not a designer at all, but I do recognize the time, the effort, the creativity that goes into it as just a fashion lover myself. So I know that there are people who are on different sides of the coin. I think one, technology does allow people to enter into the industry in a way that maybe they wouldn't have before because they didn't have the technical skills or have the ability to acquire the technical skills to do that. And then you have on the other hand, people who are much more purist. So they're all about the like human touch or just the human ability and creativity that goes with it. So It's interesting to hear your perspective as an educator, as someone who's seeing like students move through the industry, how people feel about that. So I'm kind of interested in seeing how things develop over time, and what that does to people if that takes away jobs, add more jobs, and how that affects us in the long run. So I guess there's more to learn there.
Yeah, I think it'll evolve. I think it will evolve. And
For
I
sure.
mean, you can still have the career and the jobs may change, and you just have to be ready to change with it. Because those that do not want to change, I've seen that as well, even with different programs here. If you're not nimble and ready to change and open to change, then you'll just get, stuck and you'll just fall off. But if you are going to say, okay, well, now I need to adopt this new thing, or I need to use this to stay abreast or to stay ahead or to stay on track, then I think students need to be open to that or they may get left behind.
Hold on, hold on. I'm so sorry, but I had to interrupt your listening to tell you all about our Black Fashion History Fact Cards, Volume 1. So it's a perfect way to add some style and history to your home or your classroom. Black Fashion History Facts, Volume 1 are beautifully designed cards featuring real historical facts about Black fashion icons. Display them on your bookshelf or your desk. They are artfully designed, so it looks like a piece of art hanging on your wall or on your table, and you can order your deck today at blackfashionhistory.com. Make sure to use the code podcast, PODCAST, at blackfashionhistory.com to save 15% on your deck. All right, now let's get back to the podcast episode. All right. Well, Dr. Trawick, you talked a lot about your career at Lindenwood University and all of the great things that you've accomplished there. So over your 30-year career, you've done a lot of things, including design, also curating exhibitions, producing fashion shows, teaching. Of all of those things, is there a project that stands out as a huge milestone moment for you, or something that kind of really solidified for you, like, yes, I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing?
I developed the study away and study abroad programs as well here at Lindenwood University. And one of the things I know I talked about earlier was wanting to have international boutiques, all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so being here, I've been able to travel. And so I would say the most colossal or monumental experience was actually visiting the Josephine Baker Castle in France. It's in the Dordogne area, and it's Chateau des Melandes. And being able to go there as an African American woman from St. Louis, Missouri, where Josephine Baker is also from, that experience was incredible. When they found out we were in the gift shop and they asked where we were from, and I said St. Louis, Missouri, and they said, "Oh, okay." And so the next thing I know, the owner of the castle came out and she said, oh my God, welcome. I hope we meet your expectations." And it was kind of like,
That's beautiful.
wow. And being there as an African American woman, they're visiting the castle, didn't see anybody that looked like me or, us. At that time I took, I think we had 7 travelers, but that specific day we had 4, and we were all Black. And everyone else were, non-Black, I'll say. And so we were getting little looks, like, what are they doing here? How can they be here? But then to make that connection with the owner of the castle to say, I hope we meet your expectations, that was really rewarding. And so then last May, I actually took another group of students, a diverse group this time, of travelers to the castle again. And it's actually an outside excursion from our normal Paris trips. So we've gone to Paris, France. That was actually my 10th time going to Paris in May. And I've taken students to our travelers to Paris Fashion Week twice. Tokyo
I need to
Fashion
sign up
Week.
for your class.
Yeah. Yeah. We went to Tokyo Fashion Week. Our students have participated in New York Fashion Week twice. We've gone to London, we've gone to Italy, we've gone to Greece. I think that's it. And then our study away programs, New York, like I said, New York Fashion Week twice. I've taken them to Magic, which is in Las Vegas. That's one of the largest national conventions for fashion. And then Chicago, of course. Sorry, LA, where TJ Walker actually allowed us to go with his class to one of the marts. There was a textile mart, and we were actually able to meet Carl Kanai as well, which was that I could say that was
That's
colossal.
an amazing experience. Yes,
That was colossal because oh my God, Carl Kanai and his clothing and everything. It was just like, and TJ Walker knew him, so he introduced me to him, and it was just that was phenomenal. So I would say, yeah, the travel that I've been able to do and to take students on, who may have never gotten that experience or traveled outside the world or not outside the world, outside the nation, in the US. So, yeah, I think that would be the most amazing experience or colossal.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty amazing to me. Like I said before, it sounds like I need to sign up for your class because you guys are going to fashion weeks in Paris and in Tokyo. You're getting to meet designers. So I can only imagine like how, I guess, inspirational it was to your students to be able to participate in some of those things. Those are not an everyday occurrence for most people. So being in a position to structure a program to be able to provide that, I'm sure was very inspiring for your students and something that people continue to look forward to. So I love that.
Thank you.
So now you mentioned TJ Walker, and I know that you all kind of work together in the Black Design Collective. And I know like part of the mission of the Black Design Collective is really to provide like scholarship, mentorship, and guidance for Black designers and Black people in the fashion industry. So I would love to know kind of what are some things that really drew you to that work, and how do you continue to foster that mission, through your work with Black Design Collective?
Okay, so your question is, my work with Black Design Collective or the work in general?
Your work with Black Design Collective specifically.
Okay. Excuse me. So when I make connections with other designers, like we have an advisory council here as well with about 70 plus members, professionals, entrepreneurs, and all of that. And so when there is someone who is Black or African American or want to support Black designers, then I always mention the Black Design Collective to get them connected with them, with the organization. I just had a student who needed a little extra help with their classwork, and he said, "Can I talk to you, Professor? Professor, I just need to talk to you." So when he started talking to me, he was telling me like all this amazing stuff that he's doing in the industry, and I'm like, "Really? And you can't get your classwork done?" So it was like, wow. But again, I connected him. I was like, "Have you heard of the Black Design Collective?" And he was just like, "No." And he's actually in LA. And I'm like, "You haven't?" I was like, "Oh my God, you need to get connected with them," because as a professional in education, just the help and the support that I've received from them, it makes it so much easier to give back that help and that support. And seeing all the things they've accomplished since 2020, 2021, around that time when I joined, it's been, just eye-opening, and to see what you can accomplish when you put your mind to it. Another jewel and founder of the Black Design Collective is Ruth Carter. And so Ruth E. Carter, and oh my God, I just want to scream. So I connected with Ruth Carter as well, and that was before the Black Design Collective. I'm almost sure it was before the Black Design Collective. I think it might have been at the same time. I'm not really sure, but I know TJ Walker and all of that was early on too. So no, the Black Design Collective was after, but I had met TJ Walker before. And so she's a founding member as well. And that's a whole nother story where I just reached out to her. invited me to Pittsburgh, I believe it was, or Philadelphia. I think it was Philadelphia. It's one of the
for her
P's. I can't remember.
exhibit.
Yeah, was that
Yeah,
Philadelphia, right?
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was a special luncheon for different people who were interested in her exhibit. She walked us through the exhibition.
Oh, that's
She stayed
beautiful.
at one of my homes here in St. Louis because she was doing a talk at Webster. She stopped by the university to talk to my students. And again, that was before she won the Oscar. And when we were all there in Philadelphia for the luncheon, we were all saying, "Oh yeah, Ruth wins the Oscar. Ruth wins the Oscar." And now she's actually she's won two. So she's a
Yes.
two-time Oscar Award winner. And just looking back at the pictures, she was so amazing. I mean, just like an angel. Even the way she embraced me is just like, I'm in Missouri. We ain't got no fashion here, thinking that, and, being just a designer from the past, because I don't do much designing at all now. And so just how warm and accepting and loving and caring she was. I mean, she went to church with me on Sunday. It was just so amazing, because I think you think about designers and that they're so high up on, a pedestal and just so untouchable, I guess. And then when you actually meet them, it's just like, no, we got the same struggle you got, and then we connect and we bond that way. And that's what I saw with Ruth. That's what I saw with TJ, Carl Kanai. It's just like, oh my God. But I think what it is that we have these preconceived notions, and we're not connected, and we're afraid to be connected. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I do see the Black Design Collective doing that business with connecting everyone together and doing it very well because of the success that they are having. So, I mean, I just appreciate them for allowing me to be a part of it, and trusting me with the information and just doing all of that. And another side note, so I collect Barbie dolls.
Oh,
And
I love that.
I have the full collection, minus one, of Byron Lars Barbie dolls. And I was invited to be on a call with Byron Lars. Again, I'm born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. So when I'm seeing all of these designers, I'm like freaking out. Even now, thinking about it, I'm like, so Byron Lars was on the call and he was talking to me. And I'm just like, oh my God. And so I had all of his dolls behind me in a display case. And he was just like, you got that? And it was just like, again, mind-blowing experience. And so whenever I can give someone else that experience, through mentorship or, just talking with them or helping them, giving them advice, anything like that, I am all for it, because now I've seen that throughout my years. Not so much as people being able to, pick me up and carry me through as far as with design and fashion, because that was still kind of like is that a real thing? Especially here in Missouri. Even my dad, God rest his soul, he kind of questioned, like, you can get a degree in fashion? What is that? But now it's a lot more easier. And so I try to be that person for the next generation, or those who are coming up now, to help them and guide them and just give them as much support as I possibly can.
Yeah, and I think you have a point when you said sometimes I think we're afraid to connect. I think a lot of us kind of have like those preconceived notions that you mentioned, that certain people are a certain way, or because we see, like, we know their work, we're familiar with them, we see how valuable they are. So we think they're going to respond to us, maybe not in a positive way. And I think that hinders the connection. So you having those experiences and then kind of bringing that to the students that you serve, again, I think it's such an inspirational thing. I know from my perspective, like a lot of people that talk about working in fashion, they always want to be on the creative side. They want to design, or they want to style or model or something like that. And it's so important to have other aspects of the industry, education being one of them, so that, you have someone like yourself that can teach them the ropes, teach them about the industry, introduce them to people, bring people to have talks with them. Because all of that's the building blocks of, the designers and the people in the forefront that we see today. So just hearing your stories about all of those people, I'm over here gagging, because I would love to meet every single last one of them. So I would probably be responding in the same way. So I definitely understand. I think that's such an amazing opportunity. And I love to hear that they were all just pleasant people. You know, they say don't meet your heroes, but they were pleasant people. So I love that. That's encouraging. It makes me love them even more.
Yeah. Can I add something really quick? I'm sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know I just run over and keep talking, but
no, go ahead.
So one of the things when you sent me your link to look for the interview, I saw that you had interviewed, and I'm going blank right now, but I think it's Deborah, but I don't want to say the wrong name, for the Battle of Versailles.
Yes, it was.
It's Deborah?
Yes.
Yes. So I had reached out to her as well because I saw that documentary, Battle of Versailles, and it blew me away. One, I'm telling my age. I was born in 73. And so it happened in 73. And Stephen Burrows was another Black designer that encouraged me with his lettuce leaf designs.
Yes.
And so I remember doing everything in lettuce leaf. But actually seeing that you interviewed her, I was just kind of like, and she wants to interview me? Oh my God, she's interviewed Deborah. Oh my God, I'm like, no comparison to that. And so that was something that inspired me as well. And again, I reached out to her on Instagram, and I think I was asking about how to purchase things. And she, again, very welcoming, very nice, very sweet, and was just like, yeah, do this, do this. And it was just like, okay, wow. So yeah, that's something else that's phenomenal that I talk about all the time is that documentary, The Battle of Versailles, because that was an amazing event, and to know she captured that and it's available and people can watch it and see it, that's something that's really inspired me as well, especially Stephen Burrows. But I haven't had a chance to meet him yet, and I'm like, okay, you need to hurry up and do that. But
same.
Yeah, same. And I have 3 of his dolls. He designed I'm not sure if they're Barbie dolls, but I know he has 3 dolls that he's designed, and I have those as well.
I'm a collector of myself, not dolls, but I collect clothes, but like from historic designers. So I have like this Byron Lars denim dress. Well, calling them historic and they're still alive is weird, but
20 years, they're historic.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have like this Byron Lars denim dress. I have like a Stephen Burrows scarf. Now, Stephen Burrows is a little pricey to try to get now. So I got to work myself up to some of the bigger pieces. But so I completely understand the feeling. And it's so funny how we perceive people because, Deborah was great to interview. And I loved hearing her backstory on how she got to make the documentary and how she even got Stephen Burrows to participate because he was very much like, people try to interview me about this stuff all the time and nothing ever comes of it. So hearing that she was able to bring it to fruition and have him included was beautiful. But I was like sending the email to you and I was like, oh my gosh, I hope she'll want to do my podcast. So to hear the reverse side of that is so interesting. But again, I think that just kind of shows like the importance of all of us connecting and reaching out and helping each other and, being a facilitator in this industry, I think, because we all need each other.
Yes.
So I am glad you looked me up and you decided to say yes when I reached out.
Yeah. Thank you for what you're doing too. We need you and what you're doing and need others to do the same. So that's really good that you're doing that. So thank you for doing that. Yeah.
And you as well, because I only am able to come about this information because of like the research and the materials that people like you are putting together and are sharing and making available to us out there. So I know you describe your work, at least in your bio, you describe it as stewardship. So what does that mean to you? And then how do you hope that your students and your colleagues experience you through your leadership and your stewardship?
Yeah, so I see it as a caretaker and someone that has been actually thinking about my program and how it has evolved and the trials that we've been through is almost like being blessed with this opportunity to care for this program and the students that are a part of it, and even the faculty, because we have, really special people that come in to teach our classes on our advisory council, and those students that join our program as well, because like we know, students can go anywhere for college and you can work anywhere. And so having them here in this program I want to make sure that I'm doing everything to the best of my ability to care for the people that are here, the students that are here, the program within itself, making sure that we're ethical, that we're doing everything with value, with integrity, decently and in order, with my name being attached to it, as the endowed chair and person in charge of the program. And so for me, that stewardship is just making sure that I do what I'm supposed to do, for the best of the program and the people that are part of it. And I would say with my students, and what I've seen is you can kind of start seeing the fruit of your labor when the students come back and when they have stories and when they talk to me and when they reach out and at different things, and ways they've been successful. And I was a high school fashion teacher for 10 years before I came to Lindenwood. And like I say, just staying connected with the people or the students that I have taught all those years, and seeing that they have developed into really good people, really, kind people, caring people, with good intentions and, good values and morals. And so I think that's what I look at. That's what I try to instill in the students that we have here. When I talk to prospective students and their parents, I always say, this is a family. We're here as a family, and I'm the mama, and you have your aunts and your cousins. And so that's how we look at it. And a lot of times the parents are like, oh, okay. And again, they're touring different schools, so they could go anywhere. Yeah. But when I see the student actually come in, and then I see the parents at the fashion shows, or they come, for Parents' Day on campus and seeing it, and they're like, hey, it's just like, and I give them a hug and all that. And even this morning, I saw a student where she came in the office crying, and she had her mom on FaceTime, and I was talking to her mom. So when I started it, I said, how are you doing? She was like, I'm fine. She's a Black student. And she said, I'm fine. I said, how's your mom? She's like, she fine. I was like, okay, tell her I said hi. And so just keeping that connection, like, tell your mom I said hi. It's just, it lets them feel more welcome and know that somebody cares. So that was a long answer for that, but.
No, that was a perfect answer. I mean, I think you're creating sort of like an oasis, for students. It's been a while since I was in college, but I went away to school, still in the same state, but like 4 hours away from home. So it's always nice to have, those figures on campus that are a safe space, or that are people you can talk to, you can ask for help. It just makes you feel cared for when you're so far, if you happen to be far from your family. Mm-hmm. And I think you being in St. Louis is also great, because a lot of people think they have to go to the big cities like LA or New York, and maybe they'll go there eventually for their fashion career. But just knowing that they can get a good start, where they are, they can get access to resources. Like, I don't know what other schools are going to Paris Fashion Week or Tokyo Fashion Week, right? So you're getting accesses to resources that people might think only exist in New York or only exist in LA, to giving students a pretty good running start on their career. So I think that's beautiful. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to speak with you, because I do want to share your work with everyone else, help people know what the options are if they're interested in fashion, and to learn more about all of the amazing things that you are doing, like in the industry and as an educator. So I want to ask you, like, what are some things that you're working on now? What can people look forward to from you in the next, 5-10 years?
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's a tricky question, because I've got so many things that I'm working on, but I know this will be public. And so not even sure if I can share them.
Okay, what can you share with us?
Well, and again, being where I am, I'm always kind of like, ugh. So I do want to, in the future, do more with my doll collection, because I do have an extensive doll collection, and my niece, she does as well. So we've kind of put them all together, and it's probably like anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 dolls.
Wow, that is
Yeah,
expensive.
they're international dolls, they're multicultural dolls. So all the different types of dolls. I want that to be a museum where people can come in and see the collection, because we've had a few events on campus. We used to have the international festival, and I was a part of bringing that back. They had it years ago, but I brought it back when I first got here. And I brought in my international dolls, international Barbie dolls. And so to see so many of our international students come up and say, I didn't know Barbie made that doll. To have Black
Yeah.
students say, I didn't know they made a Black Barbie. And that, just so having that museum or that collection available for people to come in, for children to come in. Because I always think about the doll test, with that, and having the Black doll and
Yeah.
the white doll. Even incorporating that into the museum or the historical society or the safe space. My niece is in counseling psychology, and so just being able to, at a more advanced level, or helping even more with African Americans and young people, the next generation, and even children. And then going back to what you said a few minutes ago about being in St. Louis and giving people those opportunities, that was one of the reasons. I'm very self-aware. I know we're in Missouri, and it's just like there's not much fashion happening here. It's getting a lot better, because we used to be second to New York
Really?
back
I
in the
didn't know
1920s.
that.
Yeah,
I'll have to
1920s,
I have to do some
1930s.
research.
Yeah, the St. Louis oh my God, my freaking St. Louis Fashion Fund. They're really
Mm.
popular here, and they hold on to that history. But
Okay,
we
I'll write that
were,
down.
yeah, St. Louis Fashion Fund, and we were second to New York back in the late 20s, early 30s. We had a big garment district in our downtown area, and there's still a zipper. There's a zipper in the street, and you can see it on their website as well, St. Louis Fashion Fund. And so we do have that background, that history with the garment district on Washington Avenue, but it just kind of dissipated. And so I wanted students who are here, like me, born and raised, to still get those experiences that New York and LA, or students in LA and New York, that they can get as well. And when I was growing up, and everybody knew I wanted to be a fashion designer, all I heard, I was just telling my husband that the other day, everybody kept saying, you need to go to New York. Why are you here? Go to New
Yeah.
York. Go to New York. And the more they told me, the more I didn't want to go to New York. And I'm just like, I can build something here in St. Louis. I don't need to go that far, because I wanted to stay close to my parents. And so that was one of the reasons I kind of created that experience, because it's like, you can be here, in the Midwest, but you can go out and just come back. Bring what you went out to do and bring it back here. Bring it home. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you taught me something new, so I have to go and look up St. Louis Fashion Fund and all of the garment and fashion history from St. Louis. I love that you stayed home. I mean, I was born in New York, but I live in Atlanta right now. And again, Atlanta has its own fashion scene. But again, if you want to do fashion here, people are always like, you gotta go to New York, you gotta go to New
Yeah.
York. But I am so interested in like local fashion history. Like I feel like every city has something.
Yes.
You just gotta
Mhm.
dig and you just gotta find it, especially cities that have historically have had Black populations.
Mhm.
So they're not always able to go to these mega areas, so they
Right.
built something where they were. So I think it's important to have that history, to uncover it and share that with the world, and like you said, for people to know that you can build something where you are and still be successful.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, I do want to go back to your doll collection really quickly, because I want to ask you a question. I saw the documentary on Netflix, Kitty Perkins, Black Barbie documentary. So I'm curious, do you have any of those dolls?
Yeah, we have the original Black Barbie doll, and what does it say on the box? I forgot. It's something, one of those slogans from back in the day. But we have the original one from Kitty Perkins, and then we have, I think, 4 reproductions of the newer versions of her. Yeah, of the Black Barbie. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited. Mattel, if you're listening, there's a Barbie exhibition here. So
Yeah.
hopefully that comes together and comes together soon because I'm definitely interested in the collection. I think as I hear you talk about the different dolls that you have from different people and like who different designers created dolls, I it shows me now just how much Barbie is a great way to archive history, which I never thought
Mm-hmm.
about before. But like thinking about like the Kitty Perkins dolls, the ones that she designed, like the Byron Lars dolls, and all of that, they're like snapshots in history of the time and what was popular
Yeah.
and what people gravitated towards, what the look was. Like even thinking through like the international dolls, I think about the dolls I had the Barbies I had when growing up, like the Brandy one,
Yep. We have
um,
those.
with the braids. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like,
Yeah.
all of those things are ways to kind of recollect what has been going on like in years and years and years. So I think it would be so interesting to see all of your dolls like as you're telling that story. So I'm excited. Keep me on the list. I want to know.
Yeah.
I'll fly out to St. Louis. I actually got engaged in St. Louis, so St. Louis is always going to be a city that like I love, even though I've only been there once. Yes.
God, yeah, we'll have to. Okay, so we'll invite you back into the space to do like your podcast. Yeah, we'll
Yes,
do
that
that.
would
We'll
be
do that.
great.
Let's.
Yes.
Okay, you saying that? Okay, I'm gonna keep in touch with you so we can do that. Let's do that.
Okay.
I'll
Sounds
reach
good.
out to you because that sounds great. That's no, really, because my space they call it the doll house because it's in a house and it's a 3-bedroom home and it's like it's not that far from where I live. And so
Mm.
when like Ruth Carter stayed there, TJ Walker stayed there.
Wow. Oh, so I
Um,
got to stay there.
you're right. Yeah, it only makes sense. So yeah, so we'll coordinate that. We'll get that coordinated. Yeah.
Yes, I would absolutely love that. Yes.
Yeah.
So
And
St.
then
Louis will always be near and dear to my heart.
yeah, and there are two other black designers for Barbie as well, and both of their names escape me, and my niece will kill me. But they, I think it was In Style, the In Style dolls, and then the oh my gosh, I can't think of the others, and I can't. It was two other black women, um, that did I think they were shorter collections of
Mm.
dolls for Barbie. But yeah, and we have those dolls as well. So, and then Kamora Lee Simmons is from St.
Yes.
Louis. I have her
Oh, I didn't know.
doll.
I did not know
She's
she was from
from,
St. Louis, but I do
yeah,
remember her doll.
yeah. Her doll. She actually went to high school like around the corner from one of the houses that's here. One of my houses. So she lived close too. So yeah, and
I did not
yeah, and then
know all of.
Nelly and Baby Fat.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I have all that stuff. But yeah, okay.
And when I went to St. Louis, I forgot the name of the museum. Um,
Missouri
but
History Museum or the St. Louis
possibly
Art Museum?
no, I think it was the history museum
Okay.
because I tend to go to history museums
Mm-hmm.
whenever I go to a place. But that's when I learned that Elizabeth Keckley is
Oh,
from St. Louis as
yeah,
well,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
didn't know
She
that she's
came here. She was here she wasn't from here, but she
okay.
came here and stayed here for a little bit. I can't remember where she was actually born, but she was with her slave masters and they traveled to St. Louis, and so she was here
Okay.
for a little bit of time.
Because I
Yeah.
was shocked to see like
Yeah.
her. They had like a little information about her in the museum. I was
Yeah.
shocked. I was like, "What?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I had one of her books. Another thing that we do too, my sister is she loves history and literature and all of that. She's an elementary school teacher. So we collect books and everything. So I have the Elizabeth Keckley book. We also wrote 5 children's books for Annie Malone. And so Annie Malone is actually my research, the background of her in Pearl College. And so all that information about her and who was the first black woman millionaire is like a lot of different women are coming out now, but it was first as Madam CJ Walker, and then when I did my
Hmm.
research I found out that Madam Walker actually worked for Annie Malone, and so it was just like, oh my god, what's going on here? And so knowing the different timelines when she had her millions and when Madam had her millions, it's like wait a minute. So it's just a lot of
No,
history.
that's
Yeah.
amazing. Now, let's get to the Annie Malone thing because I hadn't heard of Annie Malone until the
Netflix.
Madam CJ Walker Netflix thing, and I know that was obviously not based in reality. Their portrayal of her was a very dramatized version of it. But that made me go look up who she was and her information. And what made me even more interested is because what she named her college, the Poro College, that is, my family's from Liberia, so I'm Liberian. And so Poro is a secret society in Liberia as well, and in many other West African countries. So again, that intrigued me as well, to find out more about who she is. So I know that's a whole like breakdown of a topic for another day, but I think what I'm most interested in while I have you here is what led you to that research, and kind of how did you uncover all of these things?
Okay, so in 2007 is when I started working on my PhD. And I always heard about the PhD, and so it's like, oh yeah, you're gonna have to love what you research because you're gonna, it's gonna take your whole life over. And so I was just like, okay, what should my topic be? And I was just, what are you most interested in? And I was just like, well, I'm a Black female fashion designer. So who was the first? Because it goes back to history again. I'm like, who was the first African American female fashion designer? So I started digging and looking for that, and I came across, a sewing department. And I'm like, what is this sewing department? And then I looked more, and it was like the sewing department at Poro College. And I'm like, Poro College? What is Poro College? Then I saw Annie Malone, her name, and that it was in St. Louis, Missouri. So I was just like, what in the world? Are you kidding me? So I'm like, I'm a grown woman. I'm full grown. And I've never heard of Poro College and Annie Malone in this same context, because we have the St. Louis, the Annie Malone Children and Family Services Center here. And so that's named after Annie Malone, but that was just like a donation. But you didn't know,
like, what?
Had no connection at all. Even with, and oh my God, again, we could talk for days on that, because even, and I won't say today, but still with that facility, everybody doesn't know about Annie Malone. They just know Annie Malone and the children's home. They don't know how the children's home became what it is because of Annie Malone's donation back in the 1920s. And so just finding it step by step, it's the sewing room, and then the Poro, and then St. Louis, and her name. I just started digging. And I mean, again, that story is so many ups and downs, where I was in my textile and apparel, textile and apparel program. And that's a whole nother story. I won't tell about that. But I ended up going into Black Studies. That was my minor. And so I would just started, they had a library. And so I would go in their library and I would just research everything I could find. And it was so little information about Annie Malone.
Yeah,
and when
that's why I was like, how did you even come about it?
Dug, and now and I remember my one of my he was my co-chair, and one of my mentors there, love him to death, Dr. Weems, and he said, you're a pioneer. He said it's never easy for a pioneer, because I had to dig from scratch, where I'm looking at microfilms in a library, trying to find information from 1915. She was here and came to St. Louis in 1902, trying to find dig. And now most people, and I don't know if they, use it or not, but my dissertation, a lot of people will use my dissertation to find that information. And there are other dissertations that I've used, like for master's degrees and other doctorates, that Dr. Weems told me about. And so I know, her last name was Green. I remember using her. She talked about Annie Malone and Madam C.J. Walker. And so using all of those sources and just digging through primary information that was from back then to discover Annie Malone. And oddly enough, I'm working on a second doctorate, and
I love that. Love an educated Black woman.
And it's on. I should have been done, but that's another story. So I'm at the final stage. It's like all I have to do is update the dissertation, and I'm done. And so it's on actually Poro College. The first one, the PhD, was on Annie Malone, discovering who is this woman. And then the second one is an EDD, so it's an educational doctorate, and it's finding out about this Poro College, which was a higher education institution but it was also a business, and so a vertical enterprise. And so looking at that side of it is where I am currently. So, well, not really, because I'm done, but I just gotta put it all together and
Put
sit
it all
in.
together. Yeah. That sounds so exciting to me. I love research. Of like hearing like all of the digging you have to do sounds like a great time. I'm sure it's stressful being on a timeline of like a PhD program and a dissertation. But I love that you were able to uncover that information and package it. And so now that we know who she is, and I'm sure, you know, your work certainly like was the source material for many of other things here that kind of talk about her story as well, even if they don't say it, you know. So so I do appreciate, thank you for that. And hopefully there's like an Annie Malone story that gets told one day and you will properly be consulted and credited and paid for your contribution and your research to all of those things.
Yeah, there is a documentary that I did help with, and they told me the reason they started this documentary is because of the enthusiasm that I had talking about Annie Malone for a different documentary. The producers of the documentary that's coming out in March, he told me, he said, we didn't know who Annie Malone was. We were just coming to do the interview because we were the film crew. And he said, but after I heard you talk about her in that interview, he was just like, we had to find out who she was. And so they started digging. And so now they're pretty much at the end of it. And it's Annie Malone Film Projects. And so it'll be out in March, February or March. And so they did reach out to me, stayed in contact with me. I gave them different sources of people to contact for the documentary. And so it was really nice. I was a part of, well, I was invited, and there was a trip to Canada because on one of the, and that was afforded by the film project, where Annie Malone in, I think it was the 1926 Pearl College booklet, she talked about where she had been in Canada and Nova Scotia. And I kept thinking, Nova Scotia, oh my God, Nova Scotia. And so I was able to go to Nova Scotia in Canada just it was actually a few weeks ago, right when school started. So that was really good, and that was in part with the Annie Malone Field Project. So I thank them for that opportunity as well. So
yeah, I will make sure that I look up the Annie Malone Film Project because I want to know when the documentary comes out. I definitely want to watch it. But thank you so much, Dr. Trawick, for all of your stories and your insight, where they can find you online, how they can support you in your work, where they can buy your books, all of that stuff.
Okay, so I am at Lindenwood University. And if you just Google Lindenwood University's fashion program, you should be able to get in contact with me. I know our department head and our interim dean is listed, but if you just say, you know, you want more information about the fashion, that they'll send it to me. But it is, my email is ctrawick@lindenwood.edu. And our books, so we have 5 Annie Malone children's books, and they are actually educational books. And so they talk a little about Annie Malone, but they're mostly inspired by Annie Malone. It's Annie Malone ABCs, Annie Malone's 1, 2, 3s, Annie Malone's colors, Annie Malone shapes, and then an activity book. And so what I wanted to do with those books is I said, and that was after, so that Netflix series actually inspired these books to be created, because when I saw how she was just negatively depicted and degraded and massacred, just all the other words you can think of, I said, no way. We're going to start from scratch. And I want every child here in St. Louis and everywhere possibly, I want them to know about Annie Malone and know who she was, and, you know, and what she did for our society. And so my sister, again, like I said, she's an elementary school teacher. So we were like, how can we make this educational? And so what we did is all 5 are educational books, but it gives you that, oh, who is this Annie Malone? It's like little tidbits of her, so their parents can do more research and find out more, and then they can talk about the different things. But just having those books available, they're on Amazon, and so they can be purchased there. So anyone on children's books are on there. And I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Chajuana Trawick on Facebook, and then Dr. CV Trawick on Instagram. And I got married 2 years ago, and so nobody really knows me as Trawick Ferguson, but I hold on. And that was the thing too. And I had to just like beg my husband. I'm like, no, I'm just going to keep Trawick on there because nobody will know who I am as Dr. Ferguson.
You got to.
Yeah. So I was just like, I got married really late, but I had done a lot up until that time. So I'm just like, no, I got to keep Trawick because nobody will know who I am. So most of the things you'll find is in Dr. Trawick. But so I'm Dr. Trawick Ferguson now, and we'll see what we can accomplish as that.
Thank you so much again, Dr. Trawick Ferguson. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for contacting me, thinking of me to even be a part of your podcast. And congratulations and best wishes for continued success.
And that's it, y'all. Make sure you're following us everywhere to stay updated on the latest and greatest with Black Fashion History. So that's Black Fashion History _ on Instagram and at Black Fashion History everywhere else. So Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Substack, you name it. And I can't wait to meet with you here again next week for another riveting Black Fashion History episode. Bye-bye.